Hey everybody, Brian here with So Wizard, and I am here to talk all things Mission Impossible. I had originally planned to release one video a week for the 7 weeks leading up to the last movie, but I ended up saying basically the same thing different ways 6 times and one less than stellar review when I watched Mission Impossible 2. But I have now seen The Final Reckoning twice, once in IMAX, and I will be doing just kind of my quick thoughts on the overall franchise. They're not full breakdowns, not full reviews, just kind of little blurbs that I've come up with over the course of watching these summarized together so you'll have all 8. But if you're just here for a review of The Final Reckoning, here are kind of my quick thoughts without going into too much spoilers. Final Reckoning is great, but kind of a mess. This is a love letter to a 30-year-old franchise that has mostly always stuck the landing and finds ways for better or for worse to connect the movies, which if you watched my reviews on like Spectre, you know that you don't have to do that to hold my attention, and sometimes I think you do it to your detriment. Sometimes for Mission Impossible it works great, sometimes not so much. But the first hour is definitely kind of a slog, and it feels like it was reworked 2 to 3 times following the less than stellar reception for Dead Reckoning. I will die on the hill that Dead Reckoning was amazing. Stupidly released 1 week before Barbenheimer in 2023, but absolutely incredible. Once the movie gets going, it goes to 2 absolutely insane stunt pieces. The biplane sequence has been heavily marketed, and as crazy as that is, I still have no idea where cameras were placed and how some of it was done practically. I can't wait to see the 4K of it, and hopefully there'll be a breakdown of the stunts like there was in the last movie. There's also a submarine sequence that's been hinted at in trailers, but not really heavily focused on. And I think it's an absolute perfect sequence for tension in the second act. Overall, aside from some stupid choices to make the plot work and the overlong 3 hour runtime, thanks Avengers Endgame for that, this just doesn't do it for me the way that others like Fallout, Dead Reckoning, and Rogue Nation have. So I would say in terms of the franchise, it's probably middle of the road, fourth, maybe fifth out of 8, but overall probably a 7, 8 out of 10. For now, let's go back to 1995. The first Mission Impossible movie is a 1996 movie from Brian De Palma. It's a slick, cerebral spy thriller with noir-built tension and operatic camera work. Tom Cruise comes into the scene as Ethan Hunt, and a character born out of betrayal and confusion, navigating a labyrinthian plot with one of the most iconic sequences being that awesome vault scene. It's stylish, moody, and a little bit more restrained than any of its sequels. Part Hitchcock, part 90s action flick, and I think we all know that the Black Vault scene has become cinematic gold. 8 out of 10. Mission Impossible 2. All right, so this was my first PG-13 movie I saw in theaters. I was 8 or 9, and it slightly traumatized me to the point where I don't trust cigar cutters in movies. John Woo turns the franchise into a hyper-stylized ballad of slow-motion gunplay with motorcycle duels, romance, and a shit ton of dubs. It's the most divisive entry, less espionage, more John Woo action flick, which apparently is like the predecessor to the Snyder Cut. I guess the first cut that John Woo turned in was a hardcore John Woo movie that Cruise loved, but the studio was horrified by because it was a hard R movie. I also always think that this movie is a response to Tom Cruise not being offered to play Neo in The Matrix because he is a leather clad, like, Neo esque mythic hero. Having met Adam, I've now grown a huge love for John Woo flicks, nation cinema in general. I think of like Hard Boiled and other John Woo classics. I used to hate this movie. It's grown on me. Hans Zimmer's score goes way harder than it needs to in a movie this mediocre. And the ending act is pure insanity, but it doesn't really make up for this subpar first 2 acts. For me, this is a 6 out of 10. Mission Impossible 3 is the black sheep of the franchise. It is either loved or hated, but Abrams injects some emotional stakes and breakneck pacing, something that he was known for perfectly at the time coming off of Alias. He's doing a great job grounding Ethan in a life outside of just being a spy, but everyone always talks about the late Philip Seymour Hoffman's villain. He is stealing everything. He is probably a predecessor to Heath Ledger's Joker, because this came out in 2006. In terms of just raw magnetism for a villain, the opening scene to me is still perfect. JJ was still using his mystery box really well. He wouldn't go on to have returning results. Look at Star Trek Into Darkness and Rise of Skywalker. A lot of JJ Abrams movies have sucked because of the mystery box, but this is when it was going at its best. Great cast, great entry, highly overlooked. I give this one an 8 out of 10. Took a little bit of a hiatus, and then we got Ghost Protocol, and this one already gets an extra point for me because Jeremy Renner is in it, and he's in it as a better version of Hawkeye than we would get for at least 3 movies. Brad Bird's first live-action movie, I'm a huge fan of Iron Giant, reinvents the series as a global-scale action franchise. Lighter tone, much better team dynamics, and really this was the start of Cruise's insane stunts with him climbing the Burj Khalifa. Franchise really started hitting its stride here, 8.5 out of 10. Following Ghost Protocol, we have Rogue Nation. McHugh comes back, now not just a writer, but also the director. This would be the start of his symbiotic relationship with Cruise and brings some very narrative clarity and a return of Hitchcockian flair to the franchise. The action is really tightly choreographed. There's an opera sequence that everyone remembers. Cruise does a super long take underwater sequence where he can now hold his breath for 6.5 minutes. And there's an amazing motorcycle chase that are all perfect. Introduces Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa Foss to the franchise, and I think it absolutely is one of the strongest entries in the franchise. 9 out of 10. Next, we have Fallout, and this is where the franchise apexes. This is not only the best Mission Impossible movie, this is one of those transcends genre type deals. On modern action flick Mount Rushmore, it's up there with Fury Road, it's up there with Skyfall. McHugh doubles down on practical stunts, complex moral stakes, and flawless pacing. Cruise delivers his most insane physical stunts at the time to date, while the story finally feels like a culmination of everything starting from the trilogy going back to Mission Impossible 4. Fallout blends everything so perfectly. It's a movie that doesn't have any fat to trim. It's one of those quintessential action movies, and I always go back to it. I think it has the best chase sequence for the motorcycle in Paris. And then you obviously have the helicopter fight at the end, and of course the Halo jump and bathroom fight. Perfect, must watch, 10 out of 10 for me. Now we get to the decisive one, Dead Reckoning. No longer part 1, but Ethan Hunt now fights AI because that was the next logical step after kicking Superman's ass. That questions the real nature of control and truth. It was a really deep introspective that I don't think a lot of people got because what was originally supposed to be a part 1, part 2 wasn't really well received, so they changed some things around for the final Reckoning, and now it's just Dead Reckoning. And ultimately, there's a lot of exposition that doesn't really pay off for Final Reckoning, but it has to be in here to set up the ultimate culmination for this franchise. Kind of goes back to that paranoid thriller that the franchise was based around, but now you have the globe-trotting blockbuster, mystique that goes with it. All the Mission Impossible tropes that you know to love are all here and on steroids. We know that he did the motorcycle jump that set a Guinness World Record, but for me, the sequence that stands out the most is the car chase. I think that is the best car chase in modern times. It goes up there with car chases from Ronin, French Connection, the original Italian Job. Like, to me, that is a perfect car chase. And it's funny because Fast, whatever number we're on, did a Rome car chase, and it sucks in general, but especially in comparison to this, even though if you watch them one right after the other, you can tell Vin Diesel borrowed elements from what Tom was doing. I think they might have been there at the same time. And then at the end, we have the amazing train set piece, which reminded me actually of the opening of Uncharted 2, which J.J. Abrams said is his favorite video game. Is that intentional? Is it not intentional? I couldn't tell you, but I think that it's great. Great use of misdirection, super somber tone, kind of the Empire Strikes Back for the franchise. A lot of dour endings that lead into the final reckoning to finally get paid off. I give this one another 9 out of 10. And that's the Mission Impossible franchise. As we enter summer movie season, I do kind of want to take a second to announce my plans for this channel moving forward. There's going to be a new movie every week, and I'm not just seeing movies to make reviews. I like going to movies to enjoy them. And we have an awesome podcast that Joey does that will hit all those bases for the movies that I just either won't get around to seeing or have no desire to see in the first place. I originally intended to release one of these a week, and I got completely burnt out trying to get it into a scripted format and out for you guys. I prefer videos like this where I can talk for a little bit longer. And on top of that, I have a couple ideas for what I'm going to do coming up for the summer. They're going to be to my strengths, talking about lesser known movies, double features, and how to get that, nostalgic summer drive-in feeling, even if you don't feel like going out to a movie theater. In the meantime, thank you all for watching. If you have any comments on the Mission Impossible franchise or anything else, leave a comment below, and we'll see you next time.